everybody. So today I really wanted to talk to you really quick about how to budget and how to really see that your finances grow in a way that you're able to do things that you really want to do, or maybe you want to pay off that debt, or maybe you want to pay off that home loan like me and my husband did. And that's kind of why I'm making this video, is because I had mentioned how we had budgeted and that kind of thing. And I just want to take you back through the years of me and my husband's journey of how we paid off our house, how our finances have changed through the years, and what we've learned along the way. So if you're a new married couple or someone who's looking to get married soon, hopefully our lessons can help you. And maybe you're just someone who really wants to learn some new things as far as budgeting. Maybe you already know everything I'm going to say, and that's great. Maybe it can help someone to be able to pay off their house or do some big vacation that you've been wanting to do or something like that. So I'm just going to give you that kind of story of what happened through our lives so far. So let's start from the beginning. Me and my husband both come from families who really taught us about finances and taught us the importance of money and the value of things that we have. I would say that my parents were frugal. They, taught me to repurpose things, and they taught me, to look for the off-brand, or to just kind of get things secondhand was a big thing. Just being conscious of our money, the money we have, and using that to the best of our ability. We are wanting to be very responsible with our money and use it the best way we possibly can. So from my side of things, my parents, the reason they taught me these ways was because, their beginnings was they were poor, and they didn't like that. And then my dad, he started a company, and actually that company wound up going into bankruptcy. And he learned so much about money. He learned about the cost of money. Even though you have a lot of money, that doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to be the happiest person you can be. So he was really stressed out during that time, and it was a lot of hard work to build his company. And then to see all that hard work just crumpled. But I wouldn't say after that point that we were really hard off. I always felt like we had plenty. But my mom and dad were very strongly against credit cards. So was my husband's parents. As far as I know, what we've talked about, he can always remember them saying, don't go in debt and that kind of thing. So we both were debt-free when we got married, which was a huge starting point. And I suggest going maybe on the Dave Ramsey. I kind of would lean towards that. If you do have debt, do the debt snowball, that kind of thing. If you still have a lot of debt. So I would definitely look into that. If you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he's really big financial advisor. He has a book my dad let me borrow about halfway through me and my husband's marriage. Really helped us when we did have a little bit of debt because of hospital bills and different things. But getting ahead of myself. So when me and my husband got married, like I said, we were completely debt-free. We bought all of our vehicles outright, all that kind of stuff, because of the way we had been taught by our parents. 3 months after we were married, found out we were pregnant with Elizabeth. And that was a huge because we weren't financially ready for a child yet. I actually had planned on going to and finishing school before I had kids. But you know what? The Lord had different plans, and that's just how that went. And I wouldn't trade it now, but it just, it completely threw off my plans at the time. So we found out we were pregnant, but we really didn't change our spending habits, and we were spending things on things we did not need to be spending on. So like back then we were huge into gaming. We were buying like Xboxes and the latest computers and just all the latest tech. We had to have it. We always felt like we had to have the latest tech. And technology is great, and we love having, like our smartphones. We love having, laptops and TVs and that kind of stuff. But back then we really went way further than we should have, especially since we had a new baby on the way and all that kind of stuff. And of course there was the unnecessary upgrades on cars and that kind of thing, which we never went in debt on, but we depleted our savings every time we did that. So whenever financial hardship did come in the form of different things in life, you have like dishwashers go out, or just appliances go out, a car breaks down, you have to fix it. Then our second child came, Curtis. He came, and he was not the healthiest child when he was a baby, and it was very stressful. We had a lot of medical bills and that kind of thing, and stuff like that. We could have been saving and had a savings account set up for emergencies like that, but we didn't think that far ahead back then, and now we are very conscious about making sure we have an emergency fund for health crises. So that is the hugest thing. If I can tell you one thing, one huge tip, is to make sure that you have a savings account for emergencies. And I would suggest this be a rather large portion of your savings go to your emergency fund, because you never know when that health crisis is going to come. My dad has had 2 heart attacks, and I can personally say from experience with my son and just having kids, if you have kids, you need a pretty big savings account for your medical expenses and that kind of thing, because they cost a lot of money, and there's always something that's going to come up, whether they get sick or what have you. So my suggestion is to dump everything you can at first into that emergency savings fund, which is what we did after we got caught up. We learned a lot through that time of hardship, of having to ask people for help. Our church family actually brought us food at one point because we were so hard off for money that we were having trouble with groceries and that kind of stuff. But like I was telling someone the other day, I would not trade all those lessons learned. At least now we know how to budget. Now we know how to do our finances and all that kind of stuff. So I want to just show you really quick. I have a spreadsheet on my computer here that I wanted to just show you really quick on kind of how, once we, figured out how to budget, how we budgeted. So I have just my blank spreadsheet of what I set up. It took me days upon days to set this up, and revisions throughout the years to set this up. But I want to show it to you, so maybe it can help you figure out how to make a spreadsheet on your computer using Excel. So I'm just going to turn you around and show you this. Okay, so here is the budgeting system that I use. I actually haven't plugged anything in for this year, so this is my spreadsheet for this year that I'll just show you really quick. So I have different tabs down here at the bottom. I have budget overview, or escrow, house fund, personal accounts, long-term, and fun. And like I said, I've added to this throughout the years. At first we just had a budget overview, then we went to a budget overview with the escrow, and then of course the house fund when we was trying to pay off our house, and we have our personal accounts was just like birthday money and that kind of stuff. Long-term savings, and the fun, we'll get into all that in just a second. So for our budget overview, we have our car here, and we have the months going down. We have gas for the different vehicles, which this one says truck. We don't even have the truck anymore. Now we have the car, so I'll change that for this year. And then, so we have gas for each vehicle. We have repairs that we will make for each vehicle. And then we have a gas card. So what I say about gas card is we had for a long time, which we're not doing anymore, but for a long time we had a gift card at Walmart because we could get 3 cents off, and we called that the gas card, and it could go for either vehicle. And now we have a gas station in town that gives us 5 cents off if we pay in cash, so that's how we've been doing that. And then I have the year total. So let's say that for January, I don't even know how much we spent, but let's say we did 30 in the car, 40 in the Trailblazer, and repairs, we have actually spent quite a bit, so let's just say 150. What it's doing here is it is totaling up our month, but I have it to where it adds up here, and it will bring it into our total month, and this is our budget. So over here it has it, if it's in the positive, that means we went over our budget. So that would mean that we had gone $70 over our budget this month. Now, we didn't really go $70 over our budget this month, but this is just kind of showing you. So let's say that we only spent $15 on repairs, then we would be at negative 65, which means we still have $65 that we could spend this month if we so choose, or whatever's left over in this would go into our savings fund at the end of the month. Or it could roll over into the next month if you're going on a trip. We did that a lot. If we knew we had a trip coming up, in 2 months, we would take this money that we didn't spend and we'd roll it over into this other month. Okay, so that was our gas and that kind of thing. And we have our total for the year. It comes down here and totals how much we've spent for the year. So far this year we would have spent $85. And then that goes into whether we stayed on budget for the entire year. Then if you scroll down here, you got our food. And we do groceries and eating out. Now when I say groceries, I put everything in groceries. I do my toiletries, all that kind of stuff was in groceries. I don't separate all that out. Never had the patience for that. So I just, anything I bought from Walmart, Dollar General, whatever store would go under that. And then, of course, eating out was something that we really had to get under control. And so that is something that we budgeted for. Our budget was $500, which I'm going to be honest, we had to bump that up several different times. And actually, we probably would have to bump that up one more time. Maybe not, because we're really being conscious about our budget as far as groceries goes now. So we'll just have to play with that and see. But we have our budget, we put in our amounts, and then like up here we have what we, this is our budget, and this is what we still have to spend. So if we spent $400 on groceries, and we spent $50 as a family going out to eat, we would still have $50 left over at the end of the month, which we could put in savings, or go towards like a trip fund. Down here, towards the bottom of the page, we have our deposits. I like to keep track of what we get in every year. So I just will put in my husband's checks every time he gets a check throughout the year, and then it gives us totals down here. Have it set up to where it gives us the total. Right now there's nothing in there, so it's not going to give you anything, but it adds these automatically up and gives us the total down here. And I would always put this, whether it was a normal check, if we had a pay cut, if it was overtime, if I was unsure of what happened with that bill, because sometimes we just get these crazy, not bills, but crazy checks in, I would be like, I'm not sure what happened here, so I'd have to ask my husband, so I put unsure until I knew. And then if my husband got a pay raise in the middle of the year, then I would designate where that started, so I would know why it changed. So that's our budget overview. Let's go to escrow. Here's our escrow. We have taxes, insurance, medical, and school. And they're all set up exactly the same. The only thing that we changed is the amounts for each thing. So like for our, taxes, $250. For insurance, we need $500 before it's due. Medical, $500. Just to be on the safe side, we always have our emergency fund, but we also have a small medical fund. So that by a certain point in the year, that money, if it's not used, will go into the emergency fund. And then of course school, which this budget probably will go up this year, especially since we're homeschooling, but that's just kind of what's happening there. Then we have our house fund. Now I completely changed these numbers, so this is not because we've already paid off our house. These are just numbers I plugged in for you guys to be able to see, otherwise you'd be looking at a blank page. So the amount we have left, let's say on your debt or your house fund or whatever you want this particular folder to be called, this is the amount you have left. This is the amount you need to pay in order to bring it down. So pay on your principal. What do I need to pay on my principal to be able to get it down by April 2018 or by whatever date you choose to put in here. So this used to be a longer list, obviously, because we had more months that we were doing it in. But then you would just say, this is the amount. Well, if you can pay extra, if you can pay more than the 100, and you can pay like $200 that month, then that will change all of these amounts on how much you need to pay each month on your principal in order to pay it off by the date you want. So this just is a fun page that I really liked whenever we were paying off our house, because I could tangibly see this is how much I need to pay every month in order to get it down to the place I want it by this time. This is our personal account, so I just have all of our names in here, and then it's just a simple add it up, see how much we have, negative it has it where we can negative how much we spent, so this is how much comes in, this is how much is spent, and that's just, we don't use that very much because the kids' money goes into savings most of the time, and I have that in there, like how much they have running, but they don't usually spend that money, so it doesn't really go anywhere. This is our long term, so appliances is long term. You're gonna, eventually appliance is gonna break down. You're gonna need something to replace it, so we save money for a breakdown, and we make sure that we put the amount we're gonna need for whatever item we would want to be able to purchase, whether that be a refrigerator, washer, or dryer, that kind of thing. And then transportation, a vehicle. Say one of our vehicles break down. Well, we're going to have to at least have a beater car, what we call like a junk car, to get us from point A to point B. If we need that, then we need to make sure we have at least $1,000 to get a beater car, just a junk car to get us from here to there, until we can save up for another car. And that's another place that your emergency fund can come in to play. So that's kind of what that's about. And then this is our Just for Fun folder, and we have our gifting. My family does all the birthdays, extended family, they do Christmas, all that kind of stuff. So we put $1,000 into our gifting fund, and that's for Christmas and all that kind of good stuff. And then we have our recreation, which includes, you know, going and doing something fun as a family, roller skating, ice skating, just whatever you can think of. We put $200 into that. And then my husband goes on fishing trips. We would love to be able to do more vacations and that kind of thing. And for trips, we always have a fund for that. And we put $300, and I would like to bump that up actually this year to have more money in there for taking trips. So that is our spreadsheet. Okay, so that was our spreadsheet, and kind of just how we set up our budget and how it's evolved over the years. So hopefully that can help you guys be able to, you know, build your own spreadsheet, or at least to be able to budget, you know, or figure out how to set up a budget quickly, whereas it took me years to figure it out. Maybe that'll help you guys to do it a little quicker. Budgeting can be kind of stressful, and I hope that what I've shown you on our spreadsheet can help you guys to set up your own budget a little bit easier, and maybe it won't be as stressful for you as it was for me. So another thing I wanted to talk about is when we were paying off our house, another way that we did that so quickly and so effectively is that we began to really throw money at our debt. And that means any extra money that we had laying lucratively around, we would take that and we would just literally take that and put it on the principal of our house. So paying down that principal as quickly as possible brought down the interest quicker and made it go a lot quicker for us. So I remember the day that I got the bill in the mail for our mortgage, and I had tipped the balance. So our principal, usually interest would be higher than principal, and I remember watching the gap slowly close, and then one day I got the bill and the principal was more than the interest. And that was such a great day, because I was like, babe, look, I was like, we are paying more principal than interest now. How great is that? And it's like from there, it just like went super fast. It's like once we saw the interest really coming down, it really began to, obviously, because if you're paying on the principal, you're not paying someone else money for that interest. That's all you're doing. Getting that paid down as quickly as possible was really fun to watch happen, but it was very important to us to be able to just chalk that money on. So if we had birthdays, I remember several years, probably 3 years in a row, I did not use my birthday money for myself, which if my family watched this video, they will be very irritated at me, but I did not spend that money on myself. I threw it on the house principal so that we could pay our house off faster, because that gave me joy. So if you are one of my family members watching this, it gave me joy, okay? So now I have all that money just, at excess, so I wasn't having to just pay on the interest. I was actually paying down the principal as quickly as possible. So also another thing that we would use money and throw the money at the principal was when we would get our taxes back. We didn't throw all of our taxes on to the principal. What we did is we would take money out for that year. So a lot of times we would take out like our Christmas money from taxes. So that money went into savings, and it was specifically for Christmas. And then like other things, like if we were behind on our budget because something had come up, like if our emergency fund had gotten depleted, we would go ahead and get that back up, to where it needed to be. But anything left over, we didn't go out and spend our money and buy anything that, just we'd been wanting. We literally would just throw, $4,000 onto the principal of our house. And the reason we could do that is because we had set up our budgeting system, and we were able to do that because of that. Before, when we didn't have our budgeting system, before that system came to play, we did not have big chunks of money like that on our taxes that we could do, because we were literally using our tax money to pay off debt. We were using our tax money to buy a new vehicle because, we thought we needed one. We were buying, things that we didn't need, like games or a gaming system with our tax money. Just wasting our money on things that we really didn't need. But then there were the things that were, legit, like things that we really needed, like maybe new appliance or, paying off some of that, medical debt that we had accumulated. Those kind of things, yes, we had to use that money. But there are definitely many times I can remember using that money and not putting it towards what we should have. And kind of now I look back and I very much regret. And I always kind of tease my husband. I'm like, do you remember? Can you imagine if we would have just saved that money? But we didn't. And hopefully someone can learn from our mistake. Make sure you're saving for the important things that you want in life, like, a house. Or maybe it is a car that you're really, really wanting really bad. Save for it, but don't go in debt for that kind of thing. It's not worth it to owe someone money and be paying them extra money for, something that you could have bought a lot cheaper. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe. If you have any suggestions, any questions about other ways that we budgeted, if you have suggestions for future videos, just make sure you leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to respond to you guys. So I will see you guys next time.